Okay, assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all well. Oops. Phone notifications. Let's put that on silent. All right. Okay, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Audio is okay. Thank you, Fireboy. Roman, good to see you. Hector, thank you very much. All right, let's get this going. Where's my presentation? Here it is. Okay, let's try to run through this and not take too much time. So what do I have today? What do I have this week? In terms of just something that I thought I'd share some contemplation. Is faith by God's will. So, we have this concept, this idea that, people will believe if God wants them to believe, that kind of thing, which is something which is pretty much, all over the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim nation. That's what a lot of people think, right? That people believe or have faith or have iman by God's will. And a verse that's often brought to show that is this. So this is a verse which in Surah Al-An'am says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولو أننا نزلنا إليهم الملائكة وكلمهم الموتى وحشرنا عليهم كل شيء قبلا ما كانوا ليؤمنوا إلا أن يشاء الله ولكن أكثرهم يجهلون. And even if we had sent down to them the angels, and the dead had spoken to them, and had we gathered together everything in front of them, they would not believe unless Allah should will. But most of them act with jahal. Now I've amended this translation a bit. It's taken from Sahih International. But this verse, somebody reading this with grown up with the mentality, which is just almost in the atmosphere of the Islamic world, this kind of this mentality of Jabr, right? Even the traditional Islam is mostly the Ash'ari school of theology, right? The Ash'ari Maturidi, that has been the dominant sort of Sunni position, at least for most of the Muslim world. And in the end, that comes down to Jabr. It comes down to this idea that even the things which you choose, it's God who has chosen them for you. That kind of idea. Okay, in the end, it comes down to that. So yeah, people look at this verse and others like it and say, no one can believe or have faith unless God wills it, even if they were shown every miracle. So this verse is saying that, God is saying that even if we had sent down the angels directly to them, and the dead had spoken to them, and we had brought in front of them everything, they would not believe or have faith except as God wills. So they're saying, okay, it's God who wills whether you have faith or not. And like I said, this is really the result of notions of Jabr. If you don't know what that word is, like I said, it's this idea that that everything is predestined. Whether you believe or don't believe, you have faith or don't believe, it's all predestined, and God chooses it for you. It's His will. Okay, that kind of thing. And this ummah is soaked in that. Okay, and the seeds of that were put in sort of early by the rulers and the scholars. It benefits the rulers to be able to tell their populace everything that they do, every injustice that they do, every murder they commit, all of that. It's all part of God's will. It's God's will. So don't question it. Don't speak against it. Okay. So that has its roots a little bit in this, I think. But let's go back. Let's go back and read this section and try to see it without this mentality of Jabr. So we're going to get to this verse. We're going to go back first and look at the preceding verses. So I'm starting off from here, this part. I mean, of course, a surah is almost not arbitrary, but where you start in the surah, you should start in the beginning to see the whole surah. But if you go back generally and get to a verse which doesn't start with a wow, okay, you could sort of generally say that this is could be the start of the next section. Okay, it's related to what comes after it, and it's sort of a little bit of a different section from what came before it, even though it's related to that as well. So here it says, اتبع ما أوحي إليك من ربك. Okay, follow you, Muhammad. It's speaking in the second person. Follow what has revealed to you from your Lord. Okay, لا إله إلا هو. There is no, deity, one to be served except Him. وأعرض عن المشركين, and turn away from those who associate others with Allah. Turn away from the mushrikeen. Then it says, وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا أَشْرَكُوا. Okay? But if Allah had willed, they would not have associated, would not have been mushrikeen. مَا أَشْرَكُوا. Okay? وَمَا جَعَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَفِيظًا. We have not appointed you over them as a guardian. Okay? وَمَا أَنْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِوَكِيلٍ. Nor are you a manager over them, over their affairs. You're not their wakil. Now, what does this mean? Does it mean that Allah, did Allah will them to be mushrikeen? Of course, it doesn't mean that. Okay, it doesn't mean that. Okay, this here, if God had willed, they would not have been mushrikeen, is in the same vein which that first verse is talking about, which we will see soon. Okay, and we'll just continue. It will become clearer as we go along. Then it says, وَلَا تَسُبُّوا. Now remember, all of these verses, every verse, you should try to relate it. They're linked. Sometimes you read a verse by itself like this, and you think it's not linked to what's before it. It is linked to what's before it. Okay? Right? أعرض عن المشركين. It's talking about al-mushrikeen, and it's saying, وَلَوْ شَاءَ Allah, these people here, if God had willed, they would not have ashraku. Okay? And you are not, you are not the person who's supposed to force them or make them or anything like that. Okay? So that's not your job. You are just to warn and to deliver. And then it says, addressing, those around the Prophet. It's not addressing him directly, it's addressing those around the Prophet, because the Prophet didn't used to do that. He didn't used to curse. Okay? It says, وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. And do not insult or curse those they invoke other than Allah, lest they insult Allah in enmity without knowledge. فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. كذلك زين لكل أمة عملهم. Thus we have made pleasing, or كذلك زينا لكل أمة عملهم. We made everything seem pleasing to them. وإلى ربهم مرجعهم. To their Lord is their return. فينبئهم بما كانوا يعملون. And He will tell them what they used to do. So again, remember, all this is emphasizing, as I've mentioned many times, their actions. Okay, He will speak to them about what they used to do. All right. زين لهم أعمالهم. Now just look at the mentality here. Okay, if you curse the idols, which are their leaders here in these verses, their leaders, they will curse God even though they believe in Him. Right? These mushrikeen, they had shirk with God. Okay, so they associated others with Him, but it's not like they disbelieved in God. But if you curse their idols just out of hatred to who? To you, to those who are following, those who are with the messenger. Okay, those around him, those who are following him. Okay, so what is this saying? If you curse them, their leaders, they're going to curse Allah in retaliation. Okay, they're going to curse Allah in retaliation, and they could be cursing the Prophet as well, the messenger of Allah, for that. Which it's not cursing God directly, but again, it's part of that. Okay, it goes down to that. To curse the messenger of God because he's the messenger of God, it's like cursing God. Don't shoot the messenger, as they say, right? Okay, so next verse. وَأَقْسَمُوا بِاللَّهِ. These same people, talking about these same people. وَأَقْسَمُوا بِاللَّهِ جَهْدَ أَيْمَانِهِمْ. And they swear by Allah, their strongest oaths. If a sign came to them, okay, لَإِنْ جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَةٌ لَيُؤْمِنُنَّ بِهَا. That if a sign came to him, they would surely believe in it. Okay. Now again, these people believed in God. It wasn't about that. See, the swearing by God. They're swearing by God. They're swearing by God that if a sign came, we would believe in it. Believe in what? In the Quran. Okay, believe that this Quran had come down to Muhammad. Okay, and he's saying, قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْآيَاتُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Okay, the signs are with God. And this is the key part here. Okay, وَمَا يُشْعِرُكُمْ أَنَّهَا إِذَا جَاءَتْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. What can make you know that if these signs, the sign came that they're asking for, they will not have faith. Okay, they will not have faith. Right? So here God is telling us the inner, the reality. They are saying that they are promising, making these promises in Allah's name, that if the sign came, they would follow this messenger, they would follow this Quran, they would believe in it. Okay, and God is telling us, وَمَا يَشْعُرُكُمْ, you, O Muslims who are around them, because they're saying this, and now you're saying, okay, but why doesn't God send a sign for them? Why doesn't God send a sign for them so then they would have faith? Because they're saying if a sign came to them, they would have faith. God is telling those around the Prophet, telling us as well, that there's a mentality out there which will say this, وَمَا يُشْعِرُكُمْ أَنَّهَا إِذَا جَاءَتْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. But what will make you understand that even if it came, even if a sign came to them, the sign that they want, they would not believe. Recently somebody sent me I don't know how recent it was actually, but somebody sent me a part of a clip of this person who he talks. He's a Christian actually, but he was saying that that you know if he what is it? He was saying that something about if a person loses this person who doesn't have a limb prays to God, and then a limb from heaven comes down and attaches itself onto this person's leg, right? And then he gets up and starts walking around. Then he could possibly accept that that God exists. That's a sign. It would make him more accepting of religion. And how generous of you. Now if that would, if you're asking for this to happen, and if it actually happened, you're saying you might consider it. Maybe, okay, maybe now I'll think about it. Huh? Is that how it is? So there's a mentality which is like that, which is steeped in the kind of rejection. Okay. Um, this is a bit more. There's a bit more to this again. So and then it goes وَنُقَلِّبُ أَفْئِدَتُهُم. Okay, and we turn over their hearts and eyes, just as they did not believe in it the first time. Okay, and why did they not believe in it the first time? It mentions it in here. The reason is mentioned here. وَنَذَرُهُمْ, and we leave them in this طُغْيَانِ, in this transgression, wandering blindly. Okay, this طُغْيَان, this it's the real rejection of their faith, of faith. That's why they're rejecting. In this case, it was a tribalism and the racism of Quraysh towards basically, they didn't want the Quran to be revealed to Muhammad or his clan. Okay, and they would say, لولا نزل هذا القرآن على رجل من القريتين عظيم. If only this Quran had been sent down to a great man from the two towns, from Mecca or from Taif. They wanted it to be revealed on somebody else. But because it's to this man, to Muhammad, from Banu Hashim, no, we're not going to accept it. Okay, it's this tribalism, it's this racism. Okay, they're just, no, I'm not going to take it. So the next verse is the one we started about. Now it tells you just how bad this Tughyan is. The Tughyan where they say, we're not going to believe. Okay, we're not going to believe. Now it tells you just how bad it is, how much they refuse to use their hearts and eyes. Okay, it says here, and even if we had sent them, these same people, even if we had sent them a sign that they want, even if we had sent them down to them, and sent down the angels, and the dead had spoken to them, and we gathered to them everything in front of them, they would not believe unless Allah should will. But most of them act with jahl. They are acting in jahl. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَهُمْ يَجْهَلُونَ. Okay, they are in jahl. This kind of barbarism and tribalism. That's what this jahl is. When you think of jahl, it's often misunderstood to mean ignorance, like a jahil, somebody who doesn't know, but that's not true. Okay, ignorant person can be taught, a jahil cannot, which is why the Quran commands the Prophet to turn away from the jahilin. You can't reason with these people. Person who acts in this kind of jahl, he's a person of jahl, you can't teach them. The Prophet himself was told to just turn away from them. Not even, you can't teach them. So it's that kind of thing, that tribalism and hate and racism and hatred, that belligerence. Okay, they're acting in that way. Okay, and that's all it is. Okay, it doesn't matter about the signs. Okay, that is what they are in. Okay, it doesn't matter the signs that are brought to them, they will not believe. And the sort of verse is actually saying that these people have completely decided that they will not have faith. Okay, and the only way they would have faith is if God wills it. Means God forces it. Okay, forces them to have faith. It means that if God forces them to have faith, then they would have faith. Okay, so the verse is saying that they are so steeped in their tughyan, in their denial, that even if every sign was brought to them, they would refuse to have any faith in Muhammad or this Quran that he brought. Never. Okay, they're just completely in rejection of it. Okay, and the only way they ever would is if God willed it. God willed them to be like that. He took away their free will. But instead, God leaves them with their choice of their own jahal to act in this way. Um, the world right now has become much more tolerant of each other. There isn't this intense kind of tribalism and racism as it used to be. But I mean, we still have an inkling of that. People in the West, especially. If you try to think of it in terms of how, if this was in America during the height of the racism, all right, and the Quran had been revealed to a black person, to a black man, okay, in the South somewhere, okay, the mentality which is mentioned here, that there will be some of the some of the white people at the time who, it doesn't matter how many signs is brought, to this, for them to have faith that God had revealed a revelation to this black man and they should follow him. It wouldn't matter at all. No, it doesn't matter how many angels come down. If the dead were to speak to them, it wouldn't matter. Okay, they would just not follow. They would not. They would refuse outright to accept it at all, even to admit it. All right, because again, it's that kind of tughyan. That's what's mentioned in this verse. Okay, that no matter what, there are some people that no matter what you bring for them, okay, that's not about it's not about the evidence, not about the signs. Okay, they have just completely set their hearts against faith for some belligerent reason, for some jahal, okay, some tughyan. Okay, and the only way that they would ever have faith is if God were to will it on them, to force it on them. So that's what these verses are basically about. Um, but again, this is about faith. It's about iman. Okay, ma كان ليؤمنوا. It doesn't say ma كانوا ليسلموا. Okay, it doesn't say that they will not submit. Okay, because that's different. Okay, this is about faith and about iman, and it is described, later chronologically, because Surah Al-Baqarah, was revealed after the Hijrah. Okay, so it's Medina Surah, it's the first surah to be revealed in Medina. Previous to that, in Mecca, were the verses we were just talking about. Those were Surah Al-An'am. But in Mecca, okay, this was revealed in the الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. What we're talking about here, who are الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا at this time, it is the Meccans. Okay, because as soon as the Prophet went to Medina, he received these verses. So it's talking about those in Mecca. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنذَرْتَهُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Those who are الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا in Mecca, those same sort of people, it doesn't matter if you warn them or they won't have faith. Okay, and also in the beginning of Surah Yasin, again, it's mentioned a similar sort of thing. That these people, and Surah Yasin was one of the last to be revealed in Mecca. It's telling the Prophet that these people will never have faith. But that doesn't mean they will never, become Muslim, because a lot of them did become Muslim. They entered into Islam outwardly, but they never had faith. So it doesn't mean that they can't become Muslim and they can't obey God and His Messenger and be rewarded with Jannah, because they can. Okay, because I've said this many times, it's about actions, it's not about what you believe. And that's shown in the famous verse in Surah Al-Hujurat, where the Arab come and say, قالت الأعراب آمنا. The Bedouins would come and say to them after, we have faith. And the Prophet told him, no, لم تؤمنوا. No, you don't have faith yet. Okay, but instead say أسلمنا. Instead say we have submitted. For faith, وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلُ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ, because faith has not yet entered your heart, or keep saying that until real faith enters your heart. But even whether you have faith or you don't have faith, you have iman or you don't have iman, إن تطيعوا الله ورسوله لا يلتكم من أعمالكم شيئا. Okay, if you obey God and His Messenger, the main virtues which they've been commanded, be honest, don't murder, don't steal, give in charity, be kind. The main virtues, right? Don't bear false witness, don't cheat, don't lie, don't commit zina, don't murder, all of these kind of stuff. If you obey God and His Messenger, لا يلتكم من أعمالكم شيئا. And also, even if you fight with God and His Messenger, in any of the things, if you obey God and His Messenger, He will not deprive you from your deeds of anything, meaning the reward of your deeds, right? You will still be given the reward of those deeds, even if you have no iman. Okay, but if you fight against the tughyan or the tendency in yourself and have have Islam and submit, then Inna Allah ghafurur rahim. As the end of the verse says, God is forgiving, merciful. All right, okay, so that's basically what I wanted to share today from my end. Let's have a look at the we have in our chats. Assalamu alaikum. Bring this out. Assalamu alaikum to all. Assalamu alaikum, Prius. We said here, please do share your thoughts on the Quran, on the tafsir of Ibn Kathir. Is there anything special about it? No, there's nothing special about the tafsir of Ibn Kathir. The reason why it became so popular is just mainly because he's a student of Ibn Taymiyyah. Okay, so because in the last, how long has it been now? 50 years or something? I don't know. A lot of oil money from the Gulf countries, especially from Saudi Arabia, went around, publicizing a lot of the works of Ibn Taymiyyah and anybody associated with him, basically. So his main students, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah and Ibn Kathir. These were two students of Ibn Taymiyyah, right? And they were being publicized a lot because of that link, basically. The Salafi the Wahhabi movement at the start, Muhammad ibn al-Wahhab, he would only the only scholar he looked up to was Ibn Taymiyyah. So it was Ibn Taymiyyah and those linked with him. So that's really, really wide, so popular. The other tafsirs are a lot better. Some of them, I don't know. I mean, if you could say better or not, but that's why I think Ibn Kathir's tafsir is so popular. It's just it was popularized, through money and through money by the Salafi Saudi da'wah kind of thing. You have the tafsir of al-Qurtubi, of al-Tabari, those are all al-Razi. You have many other tafsirs to look up to. I'm so glad this topic is today's topic. I've been studying free will versus determinism for so long, and this caravan is so worth riding. Yeah, Lord, thank you. Yeah, I mean, this it's a big issue, right? There's free will versus determinism, and this is one of the verses, I think, which is taken to sort of promote this idea that people have faith by God's will. God is not going to demand faith of people, and then He chooses who has faith and who doesn't. I mean, that's just ridiculous, right? Everybody is free to either have faith or not have faith, right? And numerous Qurans, فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Okay, فَمَنْ شَاءَ, whoever wills, they will, not God. Right? فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. And whoever wills, let them go in kufr. They will, not God. Right? God doesn't will somebody to become a believer or not a believer. Okay. يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ, this verse that's on the screen now. Okay, there's one of the verses at the next verse, يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا. They basically they give the they attribute it to you that they have become Muslim. Okay, and أسلموا. قُلْ بَلِ اللَّهُ يُمِنُّ عَلَيْكُمْ. It says, no, just that God is the one who has favored you, that He guided you to faith. إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ, if you are indeed truthful, right? If you are indeed truthful, then I think it's the next verse. It says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. No, it's not that verse. It's a lot like one of the it's the last verse. Yes, that was the last verse. يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ أَسْلَمُوا قُلْ لَا تَمُنُّوا عَلَيَّ إِسْلَامَكُمْ. They attribute it to you that they have submitted. قُلْ لَا تَمُنُّوا عَلَيَّ إِسْلَامَكُمْ. Say, don't attribute to me that you have entered Islam. Okay, it's not you. It's not me. It's your decision. You did it. Okay, you are the ones who are submitted. And then the verse continues, بَلِ اللَّهُ يَمُنُّ عَلَيْكُمْ. Rather, it is God who has favored you, whom you should credit with, that He guided you to Iman, to faith. إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you are truthful, right? So that He will guide you to Iman if you are truthful. Okay, maybe that's a verse I should have put in there. Let me see if I can share it on the screen. Hold on, it's in Surah Al-Hujurat, it's the last verse. Let me remove this and share the other tab. All right, yeah, so this is a verse. You can see it, I'm not sure, is it clear? Sorry, that's not the verse, hold on. It should be updating. Give it a bit. That's verse. Must be. Yeah, there it is. Okay, here it is. يمنون عليك أن أسلموا قل لا تمنوا علي إسلامكم بل الله يمن عليكم أن هداكم للإيمان إن كنتم صادقين. Okay, let's look at Pixel. They make it a favor unto thee, Muhammad, that they have surrendered unto him, unto God. Say, deem not your surrender a favor unto me, but Allah does confer a favor on you, insomuch as He has led you to faith, if you are earnest. Okay, that's those translations sometimes, right? The old ones. They consider it a favor to you that they have accepted Islam, or they attribute it to you. يَمُنُّونَ عَلَيْكَ. Okay, say, do not consider your Islam a favor to me, or do not attribute it to me. Rather, it is God that you should confer, who has conferred the favor upon you, that He has guided you to faith, if you should be truthful. These conditions are important, right? If you are truthful. If you are truthful, God will guide you to faith, which is why one of the most, there's that hadith, right, that, the Prophet said, I enjoin upon you honesty, right? Be honest, because truly honesty guides to al-bir, right? Righteousness, and righteousness guides to paradise, and the person keeps on telling the truth until he's considered in God's sight a siddiq, right? So it is a paramount virtue, right? That here they're saying that God, if God has done anything, He doesn't will somebody to become a believer or not, but He helps guide to faith those who are truthful. Their truth helps to guide them to faith, to iman. All right, we don't have anybody backstage. Let me see what other. Comments we have. Ibn Arabi says the servant's choosing is the greatest and densest of veils. He who witnesses compulsion in choice knows that the choice is compelled in his choosing. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the whole. That's basically the Ash'ari thing. The bottom line of the Ash'ari idea is that it is in the end compulsion. Okay, it's compulsion. That God is the one who chooses your choosing. Okay, and then he's going to choose your choosing, and he's going to punish you for the choices that he chose for you to choose. I mean, it's ridiculous. Okay, this kind of philosophical wrangling. Um, the origins of it, like I said, the origins of it come from the Umayyad period and the tyrants who wanted it to be that way. Okay, they put that forward, and then the scholars went along with it. All right, we have somebody backstage. Norman, Assalamu alaikum. Gonna add you to the stream.
Alaikum salam.
Alaikum assalam. Good to see you. And we actually see
back.
you. Yes.
Are there any news from Hassan Farhan al-Maliki?
I remember. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Maybe there is a delay. Yes, alhamdulillah. How have you been? I remember you used to come
I
on early on in the streams,
yeah. I just
and we
started
didn't see you a
college.
while. Ah, right. Yeah, that's why. That would explain everything. That would explain if you what would happen if you stopped eating for a while as well.
So yeah.
How's it going? How's the studies going?
Yeah. It's kind of busy. I've been this busy for a while,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah,
nice. It's a
yeah.
subject I like.
Excellent. Good.
So
That's
I
a
have a
good
bunch of
thing.
things to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
First, I'd like to ask: are there any news about Hassan Farhan Al Maliki?
Unfortunately, no. The last court date was actually pushed back by Hassan Malik and his family themselves. So
Hmm.
there's a court date that they themselves pushed back. I think it's because of the his son passed away. I don't know. Maybe I didn't mention that news, so maybe that news should have come first. That one of his sons passed away
Hmm.
in a road accident. While of course, he's still in prison, so that must have been very difficult. So maybe that's the reason why the court date came up pretty soon after that. So they decided to push it back um, further. So that they requested it to be pushed back. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so that's the latest news. Um, Let me just check if there's anything else. Yeah. يلتزم التأخير إلى 5 ربيع الأول. Um, yeah, I mean that's the latest news I have over here. I've been waiting for the next update because um, it was supposed to be on the 11th of October. So I don't know what's happened since then. So it was done to the he says here Abu Bakr, his son, says in his Twitter account, it's pinned at the top. That's what he says, that we delayed the next sitting till 11th of October. Now that's 5 days or 4 days ago,
Hmm.
but there's been no update since then. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
so that's it. Mm.
So about the topic,
Yeah.
the way I usually the way I would like to believe fate, the most
Mm.
logical way I can conceive fate,
Yeah.
a system in which we choose what we do, but the
Mm.
things that happen to us are kind of predetermined by God,
Okay.
and He arranges everything in such a way as to make free will possible, and also predetermine what will happen to us.
Okay. Yeah, I mean you see where that would come up with difficulties is, okay, what do you mean by what happens to you, right? What about what somebody else does to you?
Yeah, I don't know. It's too complicated.
Yeah, see what somebody else does to
Yeah, your
you,
voice is kind of.
you can't pretty much using what you do. Sorry,
I can't hear you very clearly.
hold on. Can you hear me now? Sorry. Let's see if I can do anything about that. Or I don't know if it's from your end. I'm plugged into my Ethernet, so it should be clear. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah. So I was just saying that you have to afford other people the free will that you see in yourself. Okay, that
yeah, I do.
when people say, well, yeah, exactly. So somebody who would come out, you're walking along the street, someone just decides to punch you for no reason. Okay, that person has decided to do that, right?
Yeah,
You
of
shouldn't
course.
be put that shouldn't be put on God as it's something. God, why did you do this to me, right? No, God didn't do that to you. It was that person himself, right? You have that. There's a verse in the Quran which sort of talks about this. ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله, and among mankind are those who say we have faith in God.
Yeah,
فإذا أوذي في الله, but if they are harmed in the cause of God, جعل فتنة الناس كعذاب الله. He makes the fitna of people, bring them through. This is the azab of God. Do you get me?
I can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me.
The voice is disconnected.
That's how the voice disconnected. I don't know. Can everybody else hear me in the chat? In the chat, I think others can hear me now. I don't see anything that could be wrong from my end.
It's clear right now.
Your
It's clear
camera
right
is
now. Yeah, I just turned off
it's
the
clear now.
cameras.
Okay. Yeah, maybe just turn off the camera because of the right. It's using more of the bandwidth for whatever. Right. So like I said, so there's that verse which says that, right? It says that among people are those who take the fitna of mankind to be as if it were a punishment of God, as if it were punishment of God. Of course, that would mean decreed by God, okay? But it isn't the punishment of God. It's just the fitna of the people of the nas.
Yeah, but there are a few verses that come to mind. What I don't remember the number, but there's just one verse where it says, "There's nothing that happens to you except what we write, except what we write in a kitab." This is so that you don't boast with what you have, and you don't get saddened by what you lose.
Yeah. ما من مصيبة. Yeah, the one about musiba,
Yeah.
right? Okay, that's okay. So this is exactly the kind of thing we need to sort of investigate more, because it's talking about now musiba, right? So this is more aligned to what you're saying, yeah. But I was just pushing back on other people, right? You have to afford other people their that what they do is from their own free will.
Yeah,
Okay,
of
it
course.
isn't God that's doing it, right? But in terms of a musiba that happens, what is a musiba? That's something I would like to look into more. But yeah, there is that verse. مصيبة في أنفسكم إلا. Let me try and find it now. So let me show you this verse, which is similar. Well, the verse which you are talking about is about, again, a musiba, that any musiba that comes, it's because God, yeah. But there are a lot of verses, it's because of what your own hands have earned, right? So let me bring one of those verses up for you. Surah An-Nisa. That might be a very interesting thing to actually look into a lot more deeply, right? 62. Okay, how is this word musiba used in the Quran? Okay, but here, for example, is one of them, right? فكيف إذا أصابتهم مصيبة بما قدمت أيديهم, right? So how is it when there befalls them a disaster for what was sent forth from their own hands? Let me see if I can find a clearer translation. So how will it be when disaster strikes them because of what their hands have put forward, and then they come to you swearing by Allah that we intended only good conduct and accomplishment? Okay, but the point here is that it's talking here musiba bima qaddamat aydihim. So some of the musiba can be from people themselves. Okay,
Yeah.
so bima qaddamat aydihim, because of what their own things have brought. The verse which you're talking about, let me try and find it. There's another one. There's another verse. Okay, I'm not gonna search it now, but there's another verse says, وَمَا أَصَابَتْكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فِبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُم وَيَعْفُو عَن كَثِيرٍ. Okay, whatever musiba afflicts you, then it's by what your own hands have earned. Okay.
So every
But
every
the
musiba.
one where it says, that's what that verse says anyway. Like I said, this is something which I haven't researched into. This the topic of this room was mostly about iman, right? About faith. It's how persons have faith or not. But let me try and find this, bring that one which I just mentioned now. It's in the Shura. Shura, where is it? Shura, it's 40, Shura 42, yeah. Shura 42, verse 20, where is it? 30. Okay, verse 30. So this one says this, right? وما أصابتكم من مصيبة فبما كسبت أيديكم ويعفو عن كثير, right? And whatever
Whatever.
strikes you of disaster, yeah, وما أصابتكم, and whatever, وما, anything, basically, right? It's like
Mm.
open. وما أصابتكم مصيبة, it is from what your hands have earned, but He pardons much, and He pardons much, He overlooks much. Means He saves you from much of it, much of what your own hands have would be bringing upon you. He sort of saves you from much of it. Now, the verse which you're talking about, وما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها إن ذلك على الله يسير. That's
Mhm.
in Surah Al-Hadid. So 50, what is it? Hadid is 50, 57 and 22. Okay, so this is the verse you were talking about. ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في أنفسكم. Okay, there's no, let's bring the simplest one. No disaster strikes upon the earth or among yourselves, except that it is in a register before we bring it into being. Okay, indeed that for Allah is easy. من قبل أن نبرأها. So all of these need to be, looked into. I haven't looked into these
Mm.
words and investigated what is a musiba and how is it, where does it come from, what is limit, is it divided into two? Because here it seems to be ما أصابتكم من مصيبة في الأرض. There's a musiba on the ard, on the earth. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a musiba في أنفسكم. Okay, ولا في أنفسكم, in your own selves. Okay, except that it's in a book. Okay, من قبل, before we نبرأها. Okay, we bring it into being, or that also needs to be looked into. All right, so all of these do need to be looked into. But I mean, the point of what I was saying was just mainly about the issue of faith, right? That faith is not going to be something which God will determine for anybody. It's completely at the person's own discretion whether they should trust or not trust, whether they should follow or not follow.
Yeah. I'm only saying these because we can bring up anything on the
Hmm?
stream, right?
Yeah, you can bring up anything. It's fine. It's fine. But like I said, I mean, so it's not something I've looked into, but I mean, it's a big issue, right? The issue of, what God causes to bring into being, why, when, how, because of what. It's related to thing. There's another verse. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. Right? That the fasad has appeared on land and on sea, okay, because of what mankind has brought about. بما كسبت أيدي الناس, what their own hands have brought, okay, that they might humble them. The verse
Yeah. You know when people
بما
say,
كسبت
some people say, you was kind of going bad again.
في البر والبحر إلا, let me find that verse as well. People say, I can't hear you say anything right now, but yeah, the verse I was mentioning was ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Right, that the fasad has appeared on the earth, on the land, and on the sea because of what the hands of mankind have earned, so that they may taste some of what they have done, that they may return. لعلهم يرجعون. So all of these are all things which are very complicated. They're probably beyond me right now to think about. But they need like real time and somebody to sit and actually think through these, exactly what is meant for it. Will take a lot more philosophizing and stuff um, about all this. That's something to look at. Musiba, right? What is that gonna mean?
Okay,
Mm.
another thing. You know,
Yeah.
when people say, some critics say, skeptics say, that
Mm.
why doesn't God punish bad people right then and
Mm.
there? Why doesn't He reward good people right then and there? And
Mm.
the way I think of it is that God actually does do that, because
Mm.
we cannot judge whether something is good or bad unless you see the ultimate end result.
That's true. In a way, yeah, it's
So, for
true.
example, if you were in a sports match and you were playing best of
You
five,
can't
and you
judge
lost the
if
first.
something is truly good or truly bad.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go
If
ahead.
you were playing a best of
My
five
voice is
match
gone again.
and you lost the first round,
Yeah, go ahead. That's the fly. Yeah,
and you lost the second round too,
yeah.
would you say that this is a bad thing or a good thing? You lost 2 rounds.
Well, generally, it's a bad thing, right?
Yeah, but then you learn something from those 2 rounds, and then you win the next 3 rounds, and you win the match.
Hmm.
So were
Yeah.
those two losses good or bad?
In that case, they were good, but I
Yeah.
mean, it depends on how you how would you? You'd have to like categorize all of that. Okay, so the very good thing would be just to win all of the rounds, right? And then it'd be okay. Losing the first, there's an option that if you lose the first round, okay, you've learned something which helps you win the next. Okay, in your example two, you lose the first two, which gives you learn something which helps you win the next three. Conversely, you could have won the first two, okay, won the first two, and your opponent learned something, and they win the next three,
Yeah.
right? So in that kind of way, yes, I see what you mean. What would be the end result?
That's kind of how I view justice in this world.
But I mean that complicates things a lot more when you say, okay, versus أخذتم عذاب عظيم, that sort of thing. If it wasn't for a book which had gone forth from God, then you would have been punished for this or that or the other. Okay, and it says, another verse says, and if God were to hold mankind now to account for what they had done, He would not leave anything on the earth.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
He would not leave anything on the earth. I mean, that, but in the end, it's because in the end there's a judgment day, right? If God judges everybody now, here, and then what's the point of a judgment day? What's
Oh,
the point of this world? What's the point of giving people the time, right? Allah is He has, among His attributes are sabur, the patient one, the halim, right? The forbearing, right? He gives time, right? Ample time for not just the individuals, but for this whole world to play out,
well,
the
yeah.
whole like theater of this world to play out. And then there's the judgment is for judgment day. He leaves it for then. That's how I generally would look at it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I was wrong about that.
No, not wrong. What you said is true in the end, right? It is true, but it complicates things, right? When you start to think of all the different situations of how you can, okay, this starts, he started off something which is good and it becomes bad. There was this proverb of this, it's a Chinese like folk tale, right? Of this man who says it's a story basically where everything that happens to this farmer, people would come to him. It's bad things. People would come to him and they'd give him condolences, all right?
Mhm.
And then he'd say, they tell him, what a bad thing has happened to you, and he'd say, good, bad, who knows, right? And then the next thing would happen, which was related to that first thing, which actually made it seem like it was a good thing, right? And people say to him, actually, it's turned out to be a blessing for you. The second thing, which they thought was good, okay, Okay, actually, it was actually a very terrible thing that happened to you, not a good thing. Look what's happened now. He would say good, bad, who knows? The story just continues like this, where bad thing happens, then good, bad, then good, bad, then good, and each time the people say to him, "It's good," or "It's bad," and he just says, "Good, bad, who knows?" Right? Who knows?
God knows best.
Yeah, exactly. God knows best.
So if there isn't anyone in the backstage,
There's one more person, but if you've got more to add, go ahead, man.
I do.
Tell me
On different topics.
Yeah, it's fine. Any topic
One
is fine.
is chapter 8, verse 39.
Yeah, that sounds
وقاتلوهم
pretty good.
حتى لا تكون فتنة ويكون الدين كله لله.
Yeah,
It says,
8, yes.
fight them until the deen,
Yeah,
all of the deen, belongs
yeah,
to God.
yeah.
A lot of people interpret this as until they convert or something.
Is it which verses again? Sorry, 39 you said, or 32?
8:39.
39. Now it's
Now some people understand this as a religious conversion war or something, but that doesn't hold up in my opinion, because if that were the case, it would have
حتى لا تكون
said,
فتنة.
if that were the case, this would be
Yeah.
a very weird way to say that.
Hmm. It would, yeah. Would rather be something like, fight them until they all become, say La ilaha illallah, or all become
Yeah.
Muslim, or become your brothers in the deen, or something like that. You're right.
It sounds more like
The
until
previous verse.
the system of God is established or something, until
Hmm.
justice is established and similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, look at what's the priority that's brought out here, right? حتى لا تكون فتنة, until there's no
Mhm.
persecution, right?
Yeah.
وقاتلوهم حتى لا تكون فتنة, okay? And it's, one of the things, this word here, حتى, it's often said until, but it can also mean so that, right?
Ah.
Until or so that, okay? So fight them so that there is no more oppression, right? Fitna or persecution, and the deen can, all of it can be for God. Now, what does deen lillah mean? Well, priority, number one, what does God say about the deen? A verse which everybody knows, la ikraha fi deen, right?
Hmm.
God says, la ikraha fi deen, right? So I think when I used to, people would ask me about this, that's how I would explain it. This is talking about, fight them until there's no oppression, because this is what he was talking about, the persecution. This is all about the persecution that was done against the believers, right?
Yeah.
These were the people who have been taught to fight against, who they were taught to fight against, were their persecutors, right? Those who were expelled from their homes and their properties for no other reason than they said, "Our Lord is God," right? Right. So they persecuted the believers. They emigrated to Medina, and there were some who were still in Mecca who were being persecuted. So we're saying, fight them until there's no more persecution. And the Deen means freedom of religion. Deen can be for God, because in God is the only one who makes religion completely free, right? So doing kulluhu lillah, all of it is for God, means what? It's all open. It's all open for God. La ikraha fi din. That's all. No compulsion of religion. That's God's, you know, deen at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I used to look at that. But yes, I mean, if you look at the previous says, "قُلِ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنْ يَنْتَهُوا يُغْفَرْ لَهُم مَا قَدْ سَلَفَ وَإِنْ يَعُودُوا فَقَدْ مَضَتْ سُنَّةُ الْأَوَّلِينَ." Right? Say to those الذين كفروا, if they stop, يغفر لهم ما قد سلف. What came before would be forgiven for them. But if they return to what? Return to persecuting and fighting, right? Then the sunnah of those before has already been established. So what of it? قد مضت سنة الأولين. And then we are told, وقاتلوهم, in that case, fight them until there is no more persecution, until they don't persecute anymore, don't persecute you or anybody else anymore. And religion can be free for everybody. يكون الدين كله لله, all right, for everybody. Allah Rabbul Alameen, right? Rabbul Alameen. So the deen is supposed to be open and free for everybody. La ikraha fi din. So that's how I always used to look at that. And again, the next, the last part of it, فَإِن تَهُوا, but if they stop, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Right? If they stop, then God knows well what they are doing. God sees what they are doing. So it's all about this issue of the persecution and persecuting others for their religion. So that's how I see this anyway. Go back to the stream. You still there, man? There are long periods of silence from you, so I keep thinking that you're disconnected or something. Hello, Salam. Are you still there? Oh, wait. I think I need to add you again. There you go. You're back there now. I think you're back on now.
I
Yeah.
accidentally closed the tab.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice. I saw you there. You were just in backstage. I'm like speaking to you, like, why isn't he? It's not highlighted. Oh, I need to add you to the stream. Okay, that's fine.
So,
Yeah. So that's how I see that verse.
yeah, that makes sense.
About
And
the
hello?
persecution. Okay, cool. You got another one for us?
Yeah, one more thing,
Yes.
if you all don't mind.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
In the Quran-centric communities, we have done extensive discussions about the meaning of ma malakat al-yamin, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed something that I didn't see anywhere else. That is in chapter 24, verses 31.
24, 31, yeah.
It describes, the dress code of women, and it says, "Don't reveal your adornments except to these people." And among those people, it says, "Ma malakat aymanuhunna."
Yeah.
This means that women can have MMA as well.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It makes no sense that they would be concubines if that's the case.
Yeah. That's what about adapt. Yeah, ma malakat aymanukum. It's definitely just that doesn't just mean concubines. It's a general word. I think there's a lot more in it than
We
just a few
definitely
things.
have to research further.
Yeah, I mean, I concluded generally from it of my Malikat Aymanukum is that it includes both the servants, okay, the previous slaves, okay. So remember, this goes into the whole topic of slavery and stuff like that. But basically, Islam did not, the Prophet did not allow any enslavement of people, right? There was no enslavement, but there were already slaves there. So all of the slaves which are mentioned, in sort of in the Quran and stuff like that, what are being referred to are those who were already slaves before Islam. Okay, and of course, there was no mass liberation of slaves. Nobody was being forced to free all their slaves. Okay, that didn't happen, right? Because you can't do that. In sense, these were, they were considered at the time property, right? That they were owned by people that had been bought and stuff like that. That's why it was all about freeing slaves. You have to purchase the slave and free the slave, right? Because otherwise, I mean, even in the West, right, there had to be the slave owners received compensation. In Great Britain, a lot of the wealthy middle class families they owe their wealth to the compensation they received for the slaves who they had been freed. In fact, Britain only finished paying off the debt that they incurred to the slave owners in 2015 or something. So the British taxpayers were paying that all the way up to 2015. So, my Malakat Aymanikum, that's one of them. The other one is that the other issue with them is that they should be, in terms of the whole issue of the marriage and stuff, they have to be married. One of the verses makes that clear. I mean, I wrote I wrote a couple of Reddit
Yeah,
posts about
I read
that.
those posts.
Yeah, so that's generally how I view it. So and this it is talking about the Mamalikat Aymanum here means the slaves, their slaves, right? Those whom they owned. I mean, just the what it's saying, Ma Malakat Aymanukum, what your right hand possesses. Okay, it's talking about possession here, right? It's talking about, if it's talking about possession, it's talking about the people, right? The people who are possessed, in the power of others.
Hmm.
Okay, so that's how I
Though
see it. But
there are
but that is,
also
go ahead, yeah. But that is one of the. I mean, this is the only time it comes up in the Quran when it talks about um,
Imanuhunna.
mulk al-yamin. Yeah, it's the only time that's mentioned to be belonging to females, right? So malakat aymanuhunna. I think this is the only time in the Quran. I'm not sure about that, but I think it is. I mean, it's definitely much less common
Yeah,
than aymanakum, right? But
I
even
didn't see anyone
aymanakum,
bring it
of
up.
course. Yeah, even the Imanakum, yeah, and of course it can include both, right? Um, and the kum there can include male and female.
And there are also some translators who say that yamin here means
Hmm.
oath or contract.
Yeah, what is those who are owned by their oaths or something. Yeah, Quran centric has a video on that, right? All about brother Joseph from Quran centric channel. He has a lot on Mulk al Yamin. Okay, we differ on that opinion, but he speaks more about that if I remember. That those who are sort of like possessed by the oath, right? Because Ayman does also mean oath, right?
Yeah.
Ayman can mean the oath of somebody.
Okay, that was all.
Okay, brilliant. All right, excellent. So
See you later, man.
all right. So I'm just going to ask when do you finish when do you go on vacation next?
Uh,
Well,
in
like
January
when
or
do you?
something.
No, all
We've
right. So
got
still
winter vacation.
the winter vacation. All right. Okay. All right. Good luck, man. Good luck, and see you
See ya.
hopefully again soon.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Take care. Okay, let's bring on Roman. Assalamu alaikum, Roman.
Walaikum assalam. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. How are you?
Excellent. Glad to hear it. I'm very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the Ibn Arabi quote I posted because
Yes.
he's not aligning himself with the Ash'ari position. In my understanding,
Go
he's
ahead.
going very deep into this concept of choice and idtirar and jabr, and he's trying to get rid of this duality perspective of it, that there's one or the other. He's going for a middle ground where this, what we perceive as choice, the word is mutawaham, like
Mutawaham.
imagined,
Illusion.
like
Yeah, imagine.
illusory.
So imagine.
He's going into
Yes, yes.
this, the very way we view it as this duality. It's more of
Mm,
a one thing. It's not one or the other,
mm,
because in his view, compulsion and choice define each other. You can't
mm.
have absolute choice and absolute compulsion. It doesn't make sense. Uh,
Okay.
so in his quote, in these some of these quotes, and it's a huge chapter, he has a lot on this topic. But the servant's choosing is the greatest and densest of veils. He who
Mm,
witnesses compulsion and choice knows that the chooser is compelled in his choosing. And he's not
okay.
saying that the choice is made for them, the individual choice. He's saying the reality of their choosing, the fact that they choose, is a compulsion. They have no choice
Okay.
except to choose.
Okay. He's talking about in
You
that
see?
kind of way. Hmm.
Yeah. And he goes, I don't want to go into these super lengthy quotes. I'm trying to find like a more concise one, but I'll read this one. It says, God is a hidden subjugation of which the cosmos are not aware. It is He, God, compels them in their
It's fine. You
choosing.
can. I think people will be happy to hear it.
Yeah. It is He,
Okay.
God, who
So basically, he's
compels
saying
them.
that's it.
What's that?
So it's basically he's saying that it's the fact that we choose is a compulsion.
Exactly.
We are compelled to be choosers,
Right.
sort of, right?
Exactly. And he
Okay,
goes into like how the reality of contingent existence, contingent beings like us, creation, the compulsion is heavier on our side, kind of, if I can say it like that, and the choice is heavier, more with Allah. You know, we're more defined by compulsion than he is, in the fact that we have no choice except to choose. And it's in this paragraph. Let me read this one.
Go on.
He says, all the movements of contingent existence in respect of the reality are constrained and compelled. If choice existed in the contingent realm, you would know it. Nevertheless, there is another knowledge through which we know that he who has choice is compelled in his choosing. Or rather, the realities demand that no one have choice, because we see that the chooser's choice is by constraint, which is to say that he has no escape from choosing. Hence, constraint is a fixed, unavoidable route that accompanies choice, but choice does not rule over constraint, for all of wujud dwells in essential compulsion. This is not to say that it is compelled by a compulsion from something else. After all, what compels a compelled person, who, were it not for this compulsion, would have choice, is compelled in its choosing for the compelled person. That part's really weird. But you see, he's going on this.
So
There's a
he's got.
lot to it.
I think yeah, I get where he's going with that. But you know, it's that kind of thing which, in the end, okay, you read it, because this is why this seems. It's not the same. It doesn't look like it's going for the same thing Ghazali was going. Like I mentioned, when I mentioned before the
No,
Ash'aris, I was thinking more. Of Ghazali, right? Ghazali, when you
right,
read his thing, in the end of the day, the bottom line, he is saying that you are that what even your choices are determined. That's the
right. But
bottom
that's
line,
not what
really.
Ibn Arabi is saying.
Yeah, so he's going by something else. He's saying that you're having to choose is compulsion. You know,
Right,
and I was
which
thinking,
creates this
okay, but what about
paradoxical kind of thing.
yeah? And I'm thinking, what about if somebody decides I'm not going to choose? Well, then
You
okay,
have
you're
no choice
deciding
not
not.
to choose.
You're deciding not to choose is your choice,
Exactly,
right? So, and thing.
exactly.
But then you know where does it come now? He's mentioning all of that. Okay, now how does his philosophizing that? How does in that kind of philosophy, how does God escape that?
Yeah, he
No,
has another whole thing about God's choice and compulsion, which is a whole another. I tell you, it's like he goes into it.
yeah, I mean, how can you get out of that same, philosophical wrangling if you're sort of like going to look at God in the same way? You'd end up
Right.
doing a very similar thing. Then, no, even God is being, he's outside of he's constrained by choice as well.
Right, you're hitting it right on the. He goes
Even
into this, and I
if
couldn't
he
describe it
chooses
in my own words,
not to
but
choose,
I
okay,
could.
he's choosing not to choose, and you get onto
Yeah,
yeah. Why not go get a little snippet of that if you can?
yeah. It's
Why not?
al-haq.
Just listen.
Al-haq, the real, is not described by compulsion, which the contingent thing is described by compulsion. At the same time, we know that, quote, the word is not changed with me, he quotes the Quran. God either does a deed that he knew beforehand he would do, or he refrains from something that he knew beforehand he would refrain from. Compulsion is nothing other than this, except that here, what compels him is identical with the object of compulsion. Nothing compels him but his knowledge. His knowledge is his attribute, and his attribute is his essence. In the case of the contingent thing, compulsion is that another thing should compel it, not its own entity. If it should strive to do other than what it is compelled to do, it is not able. Thus, it is compelled by the subjugation, and it chooses with regard to its essence. In the first case, there is compulsion with regard to his essence,
Mm.
and he chooses with regard to the deed in respect of the one for whom it is done. So he's like, the people are compelled in their choices, which is to say that they are, which is to say both that they are compelled to make choices and that they choose that which they are compelled to choose. They
Mm.
choose their own compulsion. It gets
Yeah,
deep,
that
and I
we
don't
need more.
fully comprehend it
We need
myself.
more for, but that sounds. Yeah, we need more for, but that sounds like switcheroo. It sounds like okay, he's saying that for God in the end, he's constrained as well. He's
Right,
compelled to choose by his knowledge. That's what he's saying, right? But
right,
then his knowledge is basically him.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
what it, so he's saying. So in the end, it's just him who's compelling himself to think. Well, that same sort of argument can be said about us. Okay, we what compels us is in the end us,
Right.
right? What
Yeah.
is in the end us, right? What's it's going to be
Right.
something that comes back around to our essence, right? And if you don't make it something that comes back around to our essence, which is compelling us, right? If it's our own knowledge, which is compelling us, or something within us, which is compelling us, if you don't bring it down to that, then you're going to have to bring it down to other than us, which would mean you're making God compel us.
Right. Which
You know
is, yeah, he's saying, yeah,
what I
it's,
mean?
and
So
I could end it with a little poem he puts at the end.
which would yeah,
Hello?
go on.
Yeah. The poem is creation is compelled, especially since the root is
He
compelled.
puts it in the little
So
poem.
what?
Go on,
This is the poem. Yeah.
but it seems to me like he's one.
I'm sorry you're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, go for it. The poem.
Okay. Creation is compelled, especially since the root is compelled. So where is choice? Every created thing is in his shape, in the state of compulsion and constraint. The creature is distinguished from its root in its abasement and poverty. So be with al-Haq through his attributes between perpetual compulsion and choice, and God speaks the Haq, and he guides on the path.
Okay, so he's telling us to be in between compulsion and choice.
Right,
Good luck,
neither or, like get rid
everybody.
of this duality, be with the one, the al-Haq, be with
Good.
al-Haq.
Yeah, that's in
It's beautiful.
practicality
Some of
where you're going to be.
his
It's beautiful
reading is an
sophistry. Yeah,
experience.
yeah, it's beautiful
I think
sophistry.
that's
Who's the translator?
the translator is a fantastic William Chittick. He's done so much
William
work,
Chittick. Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah,
much
yeah.
work
Of
on
course.
Ibn Arabi. Like he is,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, this book right here, 500 pages, is
yeah.
huge.
It's what is it? It's a translation of a certain book. What's the name of this book?
This one is taken from. I'd have to look in the index. Because
Oh
it's
no,
kind of an exposition of
yeah,
Ibn
of his
Arabi's
work.
entire corpus.
All right, that's
So
fine. That's fine. I thought,
he'll quote several works on a
yeah,
given topic, and kind of do a tafsir of Ibn Arabi's work, connecting all of different passages from his various works, and even the Futaha isn't entirely translated
yeah,
into English yet, so it's still a work in progress for sure. I mean, his work is an
yeah,
experience. People dedicate years
yeah.
studying Ibn Arabi,
Yeah, yeah, they do.
right?
Alhamdulillah.
But I just
Pretty
wanted to
cool.
clarify that.
Pretty cool,
That's
Benton.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. That's good. Yeah. Still, at the end, the problem is, a lot of the self, when you get into this, right, these ideas of, the determinism or, the word free will or free choice,
right.
in practicality, I mean, you can sit there and think about it and you might sort of start to believe it, right? Or,
Right.
accept it while you're sitting there thinking about it, reading a book and stuff. But when you're outside in the real world working, which is, when the Arabic says, be over the haqq, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
sometimes when the Sufis say be of the haqq, right, be of the real,
Right.
they are saying to be with something which they themselves are describing only when they're in seclusion and away in their thoughts, right?
Mm,
But being out in the real world, actually walking around, among people, doing this, picking up that,
right.
getting slapped in the face.
Experiencing.
Yeah, no, getting slapped in the face or whatever happens outside. That is haq. That
Right.
is more haq. That is more haq than being on your own, secluded in your own thoughts
It's true.
and create, creating all these thoughts. This is where you get into more delusion, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's exact.
Right?
It's
That's where you need to find as well. Right? That's where it needs to be thought, and it's quite, it's there were some of the mystics who were more like that, right? Who saw these things more in the actual world. So
right.
they lived it in terms of seeing it around them.
I think the
rather than
Shadhili Tarika says something about being, or what is it? I don't know if it's glowing in the crowd is the term, or something like being
yeah,
illuminated in the crowd, like being amongst the
mm,
people in reality and everyday things
yeah,
while
yeah,
being with al-haq, like not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
excluding yourself.
Yeah, and being in that as well. But also, to be honest, there were some who were like that, but they were still kind of
Sorry, I didn't hear that last thing.
yeah. It looks like my
Yeah, you've been
internet
breaking up a
seems
little
to
bit off
go
and on the
poor
last maybe
connection. I don't
20
know
minutes.
why. Got like a recent.
Yeah, I'm only catching every couple words.
Okay, I don't know why, to be honest, because
Hello?
I had an upgrade. Connection is unstable. My connection is unstable. I don't know why. Try plugging in your router or moving it.
Uh-oh. He's gone.
No,
He's back
I
again.
removed myself to put myself back in. Yeah.
Okay, I was scared I was
I,
alone
I
on the
rem-
stream.
yeah. No, I removed myself to put myself back in to see how it would be. No, I was
It
just
seems
saying that
better.
there are some that yeah, it seems like it might be better now. There are some who seemed there was more like delusion in the world, even when they were trying to be among people in that kind of way. You know, so and maybe that contributed to this idea as well, that the jabbar that we had in the ummah, right? That one of
Mm.
these sort of like mystics would be killed and tortured by a ruler, and he'd say it's the will of God, right? And
Right, awful. Yeah.
yeah, and that would help this. It would help perpetuate this idea. Okay, that no, that this is a manifestation now of God. This ruler,
Yeah,
you know,
pretty
murder.
awful,
No,
really.
yeah, it's that exactly. So, it's a difficult thing. When being out in the actual real world, we have to understand that the real world, God has made it in such a way that people are doing things by their will. Okay,
Right,
there has to be thing that is actual solid reality we see around us.
right. I think when we consider
Okay,
being compelled in our choosing as
and
well, I
people are
think it
choosing
makes
just
the ayat. I think it makes the ayat of God leads them from where they're not aware a lot more sense, because
mm,
God is leading them from within themselves away, because of their own choosing, which is
mm.
compelled by them to
Yeah,
choose it.
yeah.
Oh my God.
سنستدرجهم من حيث لا يعلمون وأملي لهم. Yeah, those verses. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things you can talk about in those. Alhamdulillah. Let me have a look on the chat a bit. We're being asked, Iron Man, where are you? Meet the Avengers. Huh? Avengers assemble. Where are you, Iron Man?
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Oh my.
Let me go back and see just the chat. There's anything, looks like there was, all right. Don't think I can come back and check all of that. If there's anything on the chat anybody wants to put in, can you put it in again? Maybe copy it down. So it's fresh at the bottom, and I'll have a look at it. Adriana is telling us when Quran talks about slaves, it's always talking about to free them. The Bible, and that's exactly, yeah. So it is exactly talking all about freedom of slaves, and even the captives of war. There's only two options in the Quran given to them. It's either to be freed, or ransomed. That's it. And even the hatta, it can, God has commanded or ransomed, so that the war may lay down its burdens. Because by doing that, you are removing one of the reasons for war, right? You either the captives which you have taken from somewhere else. Okay, they attacked you, or you attacked, they attacked you, or you fought against them. The point is there was a battle. You have some captives. You either free them or ransom them. Okay, if you enslave them, what will happen? Then that they would want to now, capture you and enslave you. So it perpetuates the cycle of war. Okay, but by saying, the captives should be either freed or ransomed. It's one of the ways so that the war may lay down its burdens. حتى تضع الحرب أوزارها. So that's one of the ways that that verse can be read, rather than until, you keep on, rather than saying you keep freeing or ransoming captives until the war ends. Okay, because even if you say until the war ends, okay, but what about when the war is done? If you still have captives, or if you still have captives once the war is end, does that mean you don't have to ransom them or free them anymore? No, of course you do. So it must mean that it is so that the war will lay down its burdens, right? So that the war will lay down its burdens.
All right, I'm gonna step off now because if I start talking about this, we're gonna go. I could go on for a while, so I'm gonna exit. But it was nice talking with you always. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. As always, thank you. What's this? I'm trying to get stuck. Oh, no, there we go. Okay. What book are you referencing, Roman? Maybe you could answer him. I need to buy it and read it. He just wants to buy that William Chidwick book. I have to go. Have a nice weekend. Alaikum assalam. You have a nice weekend too. 8:38. Until a man is free to worship God. Identical phrase. All right, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So it's saying that until a person is free to worship God. That's how I look at that as well. That stuff. I know these topics are very philosophical. I would elaborate more, but I'm at work. All right, another time then maybe. Okay. So Roman is saying that the book is the self-disclosure of God. Okay, by Chittick, as we said, and the chapter is Roots of the Order. All right, okay. So I think we'll end there. There's nobody else backstage. I'd like to thank you all again once more for coming on and sharing. Thank you to Noman and to Roman for coming on. And until next week, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Okay, which one's the end? All right, here we go. Assalamu alaikum.